Morning everyone, it's Monday, it's the 1st of June. I was saying to Matthew this morning, this is the 4th month we've been in lockdown. It's only 10 weeks, but we started in March and we're now in June, and here we are still. And today the government has given us permission to do all kinds of things we couldn't do before, and lots of anxiety is in the air from scientists and others about the responsibility of that and who bears that responsibility, and how we go about engaging with freedoms we may not want to take up. And clearly in the last weekend, certainly lots of people who've decided that the freedoms they want to take are not the ones that are even suggested in today's guidance. And we live as a country, I think, a little divided in the way that we're going about solidarity when it comes to lockdown. Today is the beginning of COVID Conversations 2.0, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, going back a week and a half to the Friday before I had last week off, I talked about the pattern I would have for these reflections from today onwards. And today, like most Mondays, it will be a conversation about something practical that you can do, that you can take part in as part of feeling connected to other people in whatever way is helpful around a particular theme. So this is also a COVID conversation number 50. Have I said that already? No, I just said it was 2.0. But this is my 50th recording, and some people have been amazed that I can keep doing it. For me, this is, as I've said before, something I'm happy to do, and the part of my work that is not hard for me. So I'm glad to still be doing it, and I hope that these continue to be helpful as they turn a corner into a new pattern. Looking back over the last 49 videos, I can see in YouTube the statistics of how many people have watched each video, or at least started to watch each video, to be fair. And there's one that stands out. There's one that is way ahead of the others in terms of viewer figures. And it's one of the first that I did. And it was titled Good Moaning. And it was very early on, just a little reflection on the importance of not feeling the pressure to say that things are okay. That actually moaning and, I guess, lament, which is today's theme, is an essential part of the human condition, and a really important part of us taking what's inside of us, in our hearts and our minds, and somehow externalizing it, somehow bringing it out into the open, somehow taking the cork out the bottle, I suppose, so that we feel perhaps a little more perspective in a healthy way than we did before. So today I want to talk about lament. I don't want to bring us down out of a lovely sunny weekend, but I do want to say quite clearly that I know many people are still struggling, and many people are now feeling the loss of the time we've given to lockdown. These 10 weeks have now been full of all kinds of dates, birthdays and anniversaries and opportunities and cancelled holidays and just having a cup of tea with a mate. Near or far, that people are beginning to take stock of, feel and struggle with in ways that they didn't before. I heard someone who is in their 20s yesterday express a sense of, I don't know what the right word would be, a sense of loss, I suppose, in just these 10 weeks of their life, and what they had planned and what should have been there. And of course we can all step back and do the thing we do, which is important to do sometimes, and say, aren't we massively privileged? Aren't we lucky to have technology? Aren't we lucky to have groceries delivered? Aren't we lucky to be amongst the wealthy? Almost all of us who are watching this, I'm sure, in the world situation, and relativize that sense of loss. But it is there. It is there. And from a faith perspective, it's tricky, because I think for many people, they feel that their faith life needs to be marked by gratitude. Just last night, I was taking part in a kind of storytelling project that's part of Haxby and Wigginton Methodist Church's life and the community's life in some way. We did that online, of course, and one of the people who shared talked about gratitude and about a journey with gratitude in this year. Something one of the words they decided to journey with for this year. And it was good to hear somebody say, and to be reminded of the need to keep looking for reasons to be grateful. And they are there, however small they may be in the vast expanse of all the things that are fearful or difficult right now for some of us. It's good to be hopeful and to be positive in that way. But at the same time, it's good to not feel compelled to be grateful. And I remember years ago seeing on a bookshelf, in a Christian bookshop in South Africa, a book that I looked up this morning. It was called, I'll just get my mouse across, Stick a Geranium in Your Hat and Be Happy, by a woman called Barbara Johnson. She sold millions of these books. And I haven't read it. I did kind of flick through it. The subtitle, Pain is Inevitable, Misery is Optional. And I remember, and I don't want to be unfair, but my memories of it was that it was full of platitudes, really, and full of that kind of, put on some sunny clothing and make yourself happy in some way. Just didn't ring true then, and I think if I picked it up now, I'd still feel the same way. We can't manufacture gratitude or happiness. We can choose to see it, to look for it, to find it. Sometimes that's hard work. We can choose to do that, and that's an important thing to keep doing. It is an important thing to keep doing. But today I want to talk about the doorway that we often slam shut and keep locked because we think that's the good Christian thing to do, between that search for gratitude and the place where we might properly lament where we are and feel the sadness and even the desolation of this moment in our lives, or any moment in our lives. I've sat with families in the most tragic circumstances around funerals who somehow feel, and I have to take them at their word, but it sometimes feels like who are desperately searching for something to say that's positive. Yeah? That there's always someone worse off than you, isn't there? So often I hear that said. Well, I know there are people who are worse off than me. Yes, that's true. I'll be having a conversation later today with someone who's been in a tumultuous time over a couple of years with their health, who is just resolutely and quite wonderfully, I think, pragmatic about the journey they're on. I'm humbled by their ability to continue looking for the good and continue being as pragmatic and receptive as they are to the situation they're in. But for all of us, there is a place where we need to lament. And we find in Scripture there's a whole book called Lamentations. There are many places in the Psalms where the Israelites lament God's absence, or their perception of God's action against them. There's lots of permission, lots of room for us to feel things strongly, to say them, to express them, to bring them to the surface in words, in tears, in physical acts of frustration, of not violence, but in posture, in prayer, in all kinds of ways. Lament. So today, the thing I'm inviting you to do is to take part in a project that the Church Missionary Society set up a while ago, in response to the beginnings of coronavirus. It was a journey through parts of Lent, which has turned into a link page off the Church Missionary Society webpage, which is just called Lament Space. Lament Space. And Lament Space is just a place to take part in, where together with other people, you get to say how you feel about what your life is right now and what our life is together. Our world and our lives have changed radically. Are you angry, sad, scared? Well, then you're not alone. Lament Space is a place where we share our grief with God and each other, about the big things as well as those that may seem trivial. And so you can post something. You can post something on the page. You can upload some text, and they'll create a post for you. You can design your own text and image, and they'll add it to their gallery. You can be creative in the way that you go about sharing your lament. Or you can stick a geranium in your hat and be happy. I don't know if there are many geraniums around. I don't know much about what flowers are called what. But this pervasive pressure to be positive is something to address, I think, for many of us. And it is the unhealthy end of that side of a spectrum of emotions where we can feel how we feel and still look for reasons to be grateful. There are some who think that if you're a Christian, you need to be giving thanks to God for everything in your life going swimmingly, even the difficult things, because of course you're learning and growing through those, and of course they're good for you. And again, there are broad themes in those truths that need unpacking, and I've unpacked many of them already. But it's a balancing act all the way through. We feel our sadness. We look for the reasons to be grateful. We don't invest ourselves too much in either end of that spectrum. Somewhere in the middle there's a place where we are free to make good choices about what we look for and see and notice and take hold of and nurture in the goodness that we see around us and inside of ourselves, and the positive things that are in our lives and the lives of other people, at the same time as the complete freedom we have to lament, to be sorrowful, to be angry, to be sad, to be bereft, to be grieving, to be feeling all the things that are part of the circumstances of our lives. So Lament Space, that's today's optional homework if you'd like to take part in it. It is an important project, and I don't know that many people have taken them up on using it. There are 10 pages that I can see of laments, about sort of 9 or 10 on each page. They're worth just having a read through, even if you don't post your own. And I'll post at the end of this video and on the YouTube, on the Facebook posts for this, a link for you to use to go and find Lament Space and maybe take part in it in some way. So I'll say what I've said before. You are who you are. You feel how you feel. Today is today in your life and mine. And the only choices we have are how we engage with it. And the freedom to do that is ours. And part of our unlearning is unlearning the constraints of a culture of politeness or appreciation, or playing down the fact of who we are and how we are. And making wise choices about how we would express that anyway, for our own sake and the sake of others. But today's yours and today's mine. And the same will be true tomorrow. And however long we continue in lockdown, whatever fears continue to be there, and whatever happens with perhaps certainly a spike, maybe a second wave of infections, and an unknown future, today you are free to lament what these last 10 weeks have been for you, in all the things that have not been good, and to lament the things that are coming up that you know will not happen or take place in the way that you'd hoped for. God gives us permission to feel our feelings and express our feelings, and not even be polite in the way that we do that, at least in our praying. So, lament. Loving God, give us the freedom to be ourselves today, to speak our minds even quietly in ourselves, to honor what's there, however good or bad it may feel, however real or unreal it may be in the way that we feed our emotions. Help us to know the freedom you give us to be ourselves. And where there are things to be glad about and to be grateful for, help us to find them and express them and enjoy them. But where there is sadness, where there is grief, where there is pain, where there is fear, help us to say those things too. Or even just make room for them to be there in our lives, in our hearts, in our minds a little more. Or to have the courage perhaps to share them with somebody we know we can trust, next to us or across the world in a phone call or a video chat. Help us to be free, to be ourselves today, and especially in the things that are hard for us. So help us today to grab hold of lament, even if today we hold it very lightly, because the day will come in all of our lives, tomorrow or in years to come, when we will need to know that you give us that freedom again. Amen. So back tomorrow, and tomorrow we begin Skeptic's Corner, and I'm still thinking about where to begin with that, so surprise, surprise, wait until tomorrow, and we'll go from there, and I'll talk a bit more about that tomorrow. But in the meantime, have the best day you possibly can, and God bless you.